What if I told you that the students consistently ranking highest in global education assessments aren't the ones pulling all-nighters, competing ruthlessly with classmates, or cramming information until their brains overflow? What if the secret to academic excellence came from cultures that prioritize balance over burnout, cooperation over competition, and natural rhythms over forced productivity? Picture this: two students preparing for the same challenging exam. One is American, surrounded by energy drinks, fluorescent lighting, and the pressure to outperform everyone around them. The other is Finnish, studying in natural light, taking regular forest walks, and genuinely excited to share knowledge with classmates. Guess which one performs better, retains information longer, and actually enjoys the learning process? Here's what Nordic countries understand that the rest of the world is just beginning to discover. Sustainable academic success isn't about grinding harder. It's about aligning with principles that have guided some of the world's happiest, most educated populations for centuries. While American students burn out at alarming rates and European education systems struggle with stress-related mental health crises, Nordic students consistently achieve excellence while maintaining what seems impossible in other cultures: genuine joy in learning. This isn't coincidence. This is the result of deeply embedded cultural practices that treat education as a holistic human experience, not a competitive battlefield. Today, I'm sharing 7 Nordic learning secrets that challenge everything Western culture teaches about academic success. These aren't just study techniques. They're glimpses into an entirely different philosophy of human development. And that 7th secret? It's so fundamentally different from Western approaches that some traditional educators actively resist it, even though the results speak for themselves. But before we dive into these transformative practices, let me ask you something. What if your current struggles with focus, motivation, or academic performance aren't personal failures, but simply the result of working against your brain's natural design? What if the solution isn't trying harder, but learning smarter? Secret 1. Lagom learning, the Swedish art of just right. Study sessions. While American students oscillate between procrastination and panic, Swedish culture offers something radically different. Lagom. This untranslatable word means not too little, not too much, but just right. And Swedish students apply this principle to create what might be the most sustainable learning approach on Earth. Here's what most people get wrong about effective studying. They think more is always better. More hours, more intensity, more pressure. But Swedish students understand something that neuroscience is only beginning to confirm. Your brain operates in natural 90-minute cycles called ultradian rhythms. Fight against these rhythms, and you exhaust yourself. Work with them, and learning becomes almost effortless. Unlike the popular 25-minute Pomodoro technique that forces arbitrary time limits, Lagom learning honors your brain's biological design. Swedish students study for 70 to 90 minutes in deeply focused blocks, but here's where it gets interesting. Their breaks aren't passive. They practice something called nature contact, intentional connection with natural environments. This isn't hippie philosophy. Finnish researchers have discovered that students who incorporate nature connection between study sessions show 23% better retention rates and significantly lower stress hormones. Even looking out a window at trees for 15 minutes activates the parasympathetic nervous system, allowing your brain to consolidate information more effectively. But Lagom learning goes deeper than timing. It's about developing what Swedish educators call kroppslig wisdom, body wisdom. Swedish students are taught to read their energy levels, recognize when their minds are truly receptive to learning, and adjust accordingly. Some days your Lagom might be 3 focused sessions. Other days it might be 1 deep dive. The key is listening rather than forcing. Compare this to American academic culture, where students often wear exhaustion like a badge of honor, studying until they collapse rather than recognizing their natural learning capacity. Swedish students consistently outperform their sleep-deprived counterparts because they understand a fundamental truth. Your brain learns best when it's rested, not when it's running on caffeine and willpower. Try this Swedish approach for just 3 days. Study for 75 minutes on your most challenging subject, then spend exactly 20 minutes outside. No phone, no distractions, just conscious connection with natural elements. Notice how your mind feels different, how information seems to stick more naturally, how studying becomes less of a battle and more of a dance with your brain's natural rhythms. The Swedish secret isn't about studying harder, it's about discovering your personal learning equilibrium and honoring it consistently. Secret 2. Fika reflection. How Danish students transform isolation into collective intelligence. While American students compete against each other in academic isolation, Danish culture offers something revolutionary, fika, but not the Instagram version with pretty pastries. Real fika is a sophisticated practice of contemplative learning that transforms superficial studying into deep, lasting understanding. Here's what Danish students understand that others miss. Your brain doesn't just learn through repetition, it learns through connection, both neural and social. Danish students practice kollektiv læring, or collective learning, gathering not to copy homework or gossip, but to engage in structured intellectual reflection that makes knowledge stick. The traditional Western approach treats learning like data entry. Information goes in, hopefully stays there, gets regurgitated on tests, then gets forgotten. But Danish students use fika sessions to activate what neuroscientists call elaborative encoding. Instead of simply reviewing material, they transform information into stories, personal connections, and real-world applications. Here's how it works. After studying individually, students gather in small groups. Each person must explain one concept they learned, but with a crucial twist. They must connect it to either a personal experience, a metaphor, or how it solves an actual problem. The others listen actively, then offer their own perspectives and connections. Danish research on hyggelæring, cozy learning, shows that students who regularly engage in fika reflection perform 31% better on exams and report significantly higher satisfaction with their education. But the benefits transcend grades. They develop what Danish educators call læringslykke, learning happiness, a genuine joy in discovering knowledge. The neuroscience is fascinating. When you explain something to others, your brain creates multiple pathways to that information. When others share their interpretations, you gain new perspectives that deepen understanding. The social connection releases oxytocin, which enhances memory formation while reducing study-related stress. Compare this to American academic culture, where sharing knowledge is often seen as giving competitors an advantage. Danish students understand that intelligence isn't a zero-sum game. When knowledge flows freely, everyone's understanding expands. This week, try creating your own fika reflection session. Study individually for an hour, then gather with 2 or 3 classmates, even virtually. Each person shares one key concept through a personal story, metaphor, or real-world application. Notice how your understanding deepens when you're not just memorizing, but meaning-making. The Danish secret isn't just collaborative learning, it's learning with heart, connection, and genuine curiosity about how knowledge applies to life. Secret 3. Sisu persistence. The Finnish system for building unbreakable. Mental resilience. American culture often promotes grit as the key to academic success. Push through, work harder, never give up. But Finnish culture offers something far more sophisticated. Sisu, a concept that doesn't translate directly to English but represents intelligent persistence rather than brute force willpower. While Western students often burn out from trying harder when things get difficult, Finnish students practice sisu oppiminen, sisu learning, a strategic approach to academic challenges that builds genuine resilience without sacrificing well-being. Here's what makes Finnish sisu fundamentally different from American-style grit. It's based on incremental challenge progression and recovery cycles, not endless grinding. Finnish educators understand that true mental strength isn't developed by overwhelming yourself, but by consistently facing slightly uncomfortable challenges while maintaining your psychological health. The Sisu learning system operates in three sophisticated phases. First, Finnish students learn challenge calibration, identifying their Sisu zone, the level of difficulty that feels challenging but not overwhelming. This might mean tackling math problems 10% harder than what feels comfortable, or reading texts slightly above their current comprehension level. Second, they practice strategic struggle. Instead of avoiding difficulty, they lean into it with specific techniques. When facing a challenging concept, they use what's called sisupogenin lähestyminen, a Sisu-based approach that breaks problems into smaller components, celebrates micro-progress, and maintains curiosity rather than frustration. Third, and this is crucial, they practice palautuminen, recovery integration. After periods of challenging study, Finnish students reflect not just on academic content, but on what they learned about their learning process itself. Finnish research reveals that students who practice Sisu learning develop what psychologists call growth mindset resilience. They actually get energized by challenges rather than depleted. Their stress hormone patterns show healthy challenge response rather than chronic stress. Compare this to American academic culture, where students often see struggle as failure and avoid challenging material until it becomes crisis-level urgent. Finnish students understand that difficulty is where growth happens, but only when approached with wisdom rather than force. This week, identify your most challenging subject and find one specific concept that feels just beyond your current ability. Instead of avoiding it or forcing your way through, apply the Sisu method. Break it into smaller components, acknowledge each small victory, and ask yourself what you're learning about how you learn best. Finnish students don't just develop academic skills. They develop oppimisen rohkeus, courage to learn, the confidence to tackle any intellectual challenge throughout life. Secret 4. Higa Focus, Danish environmental psychology for optimal attention. While American students try to force concentration through willpower alone, often studying in chaotic environments filled with distractions, Danish culture understands something profound. Your external environment directly shapes your internal state of mind. The Danish concept of hygge is often misunderstood as just cozy blankets and candles, but Danish students use it as sophisticated environmental psychology. They practice hygge focus intentionally, designing study spaces and rituals that naturally promote sustained attention and deeper learning. Nordic environmental psychology. Research reveals something remarkable. Specific combinations of lighting, temperature, textures, and personal meaning can increase focus duration by up to 40% while reducing mental fatigue. Danish students don't just study anywhere. They create læringsrum, learning sanctuaries that signal to their brains that this is a space for deep work. Here's what Danish students understand about attention that American culture misses. Focus isn't something you force, it's something you cultivate through environmental cues. They use warm, natural lighting that mimics sunlight rather than harsh fluorescence. They maintain slightly cool temperatures around 68-70 degrees to stay alert while remaining comfortable. They incorporate natural materials, wood, wool, plants, that create subconscious calm. But hygge focus extends beyond physical environment. Danish students practice opmærksomhedsforberedelse, attention preparation, a 5-minute ritual before studying that includes gentle stretching, conscious breathing, and setting an emotional intention for the session. The neuroscience is compelling. When your environment consistently signals deep work time, your brain begins automatically shifting into focused states. Danish students who practice hygge focus report maintaining concentration for longer periods with significantly less effort. Compare this to typical American study environments: cluttered spaces, harsh lighting, devices scattered everywhere, and the expectation that students should be able to focus regardless of external chaos. Danish students understand that willpower is a limited resource, but environmental design can make focus feel natural rather than forced. This week, Choose one corner of your space to transform into your personal learning sanctuary. Spend 15 minutes making it feel meaningful and naturally calming. Add one plant, adjust your lighting to be warm rather than harsh, include something that connects to your learning goals. Notice how your mental state changes when you study there versus other locations. The Danish secret isn't just creating pretty study spaces, it's understanding that when you honor your environment honors your mind. Secret 5. Allemansrätten. Learning. Swedish collective. Intelligence and democratic knowledge, American. Academic culture often promotes individual achievement and knowledge as personal property. Students guard their insights, compete for limited spots, and treat learning as a zero-sum game. Swedish culture offers something radically different. Allemansrätten, the right to roam, applied to intellectual territory. Swedish students practice kollektiv kunskap, collective knowledge, understanding that intelligence is enhanced through sharing, and that everyone's understanding improves when wisdom flows freely. This isn't idealistic thinking. It's backed by Swedish cognitive research on distributed learning networks. Unlike casual study groups that often become social distractions, Swedish students engage in structured kunskapsdelning, knowledge-sharing systems where students become temporary experts in different topics and teach each other with genuine care for collective success. Here's how Allemansrätten learning works. Each student in a group becomes the expert for specific concepts, spending focused time mastering their topic thoroughly. They then create engaging ways to share knowledge, visual aids, analogies, practice problems, and teach their topic to the group, ensuring everyone understands. Finally, the group connects all topics, looking for patterns and relationships that no individual could see alone. The psychological benefits are remarkable. Swedish research shows that students who practice Allemansrätten learning develop stronger empathy, better communication skills, and paradoxically, higher individual achievement. When you're responsible for others' learning, you naturally study more thoroughly and retain information better. But there's something deeper happening here. Swedish students approach learning with ödmjukhet, humility, and nyfikenhet, curiosity. They understand that everyone knows something valuable regardless of current academic performance. This creates what Swedish educators call lärande miljö, a learning environment where vulnerability and growth are celebrated rather than hidden. Compare this to American academic culture, where asking questions often feels like admitting weakness, and sharing knowledge feels like giving competitors an advantage. Swedish students understand that in our interconnected world, collective intelligence always outperforms individual brilliance. This week, form your own Allemansrätten study group. Each person becomes the go-to expert for different topics, meeting weekly to teach each other with the explicit goal that everyone succeeds. Create shared documents where everyone contributes insights, questions, and connections. The mindset shift is profound. Instead of thinking, "I need to beat others," adopt the Swedish perspective. We all succeed when knowledge flows freely. Secret 6. Friluftsliv learning. Norwegian nature-based cognition. While American students spend most of their learning time in artificial indoor environments, often under fluorescent lights and recycled air, Norwegian culture offers something revolutionary. Friluftsliv, outdoor life, integrated into the learning process itself. Norwegian children spend significant portions of their education outdoors, not just for physical activity, but because Norwegian educators understand something that neuroscience is confirming. Natural environments dramatically optimize cognitive function, memory consolidation, and creative problem-solving. Norwegian students practice nature learning, taking study materials outside for specific types of intellectual work. Complex problem-solving, creative thinking, and memory review often happen in natural settings because research shows the brain functions differently when surrounded by organic patterns and natural light. Here's what Norwegian students understand about cognition that indoor-focused cultures miss. Exposure to natural environments increases BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which enhances neuroplasticity and learning capacity. Students who regularly study outdoors show improved working memory, reduced cortisol levels, and enhanced creative thinking abilities. But the Norwegian approach goes deeper than just location. They practice naturens visdom, nature's wisdom, using natural patterns and cycles as metaphors for learning. Just as forests grow through seasons of activity and rest, Norwegian students understand that learning requires cycles of intense focus and restorative periods. Norwegian students take their flashcards outside for memory work, practice explaining concepts while walking forest trails, and use natural phenomena to understand abstract ideas. River systems become metaphors for blood circulation. Forest ecosystems illuminate economic principles. Seasonal changes mirror the learning process itself. Compare this to typical American academic environments: windowless classrooms, artificial lighting, disconnect from natural rhythms. American students often feel drained after long study sessions, while Norwegian students who incorporate friluftsliv learning report feeling energized and mentally clear. Even in harsh weather, Norwegian students find ways to connect with nature, studying by windows with natural views, using full-spectrum lighting that mimics sunlight, taking brief outdoor breaks between indoor sessions. This week, schedule 30% of your review sessions outdoors. Take phone-free nature walks while mentally reviewing key concepts. Find natural analogies for complex topics. Notice how your mind feels different when you study in harmony with natural environments rather than fighting against them. The Norwegian secret is recognizing that humans are nature-based creatures, and our cognitive abilities function optimally when we align with natural patterns rather than artificial constraints. Secret 7. The Forbidden Kaizen Study. Evolution, micro-progress. That challenges traditional education. This final secret combines Nordic wisdom with behavioral science to create what Norwegian educators call micro-forbedring, micro-improvement, a study approach so effective at creating long-term academic success that some traditional educational systems actively resist it. While Western education focuses on dramatic improvements, semester-long goals, and periodic testing followed by forgetting, Nordic students practice daglig vekst, daily growth, making improvements so small they're almost unnoticeable day to day, but compound into extraordinary results over time. Here's why some educators find this approach threatening. Instead of cramming for tests and forgetting information afterward, Nordic students using Kaizen study evolution maintain and build upon knowledge continuously, making traditional testing less relevant and exposing inefficiencies in conventional educational approaches. The Kaizen study evolution protocol operates on the 1% daily rule, improving understanding of any subject by just 1% daily through 15-20 minutes of focused study. Instead of linear progression, knowledge spirals, revisiting previous topics with deeper understanding. Students practice micro-teaching, explaining one small concept daily to someone else or recording themselves. They spend 5 minutes daily reviewing mistakes, not for judgment, but to identify learning patterns. The neuroscience behind this approach is revolutionary. Small, consistent learning sessions create what Nordic researchers call myelin superhighways, stronger neural pathways that make knowledge retrieval automatic rather than effortful. Students who practice this method for 6 months show dramatically improved long-term retention and reduced study stress. Here's why traditional educational systems struggle with this approach. It makes students too independent from structured curricula. When learning becomes natural and self-directed, the artificial constraints of traditional education become obvious. Students who master Kaizen study evolution often outperform conventional systems effortlessly. The implementation is deceptively simple. Week 1. Choose one subject for 15 minutes daily Kaizen practice. Week 2. Add micro-teaching, explaining one concept daily to someone. Week 3. Include daily connection making between subjects. Week 4. Add error pattern analysis to your routine. After 90 days of Kaizen study evolution, something remarkable happens. Learning becomes as natural as breathing. You find yourself understanding complex concepts without stress, remembering information effortlessly, and actually enjoying academic challenges. The ultimate Nordic secret isn't just about studying, it's about becoming someone for whom learning is a natural, joyful part of daily life. Your Nordic learning transformation. The difference between Nordic students and struggling students worldwide isn't talent, resources, or even time. It's approach. You've discovered 7 principles that create academic success through balance, wisdom, and natural human rhythms rather than stress and artificial force. These aren't just study techniques. They're glimpses into cultures that have solved problems the rest of the world struggles with. Nordic countries consistently rank highest in happiness, education, and life satisfaction not by accident, but by understanding something fundamental about human nature. We thrive when we work with our design rather than against it. What if your current academic struggles aren't personal failures, but simply the result of working within systems that ignore how humans naturally learn? What if the solution isn't trying harder within broken frameworks, but adopting approaches that honor your brain's incredible capacity for growth and joy? Your transformation doesn't require moving to Scandinavia. It requires understanding that there are different ways to approach the universal human challenge of learning. Nordic cultures offer us a mirror, showing us possibilities we might never have imagined. Which of these Nordic secrets resonates most with your current academic challenges? Will you try lagom learning to honor your natural rhythms? Fika reflection to transform isolation into connection? Sisu persistence to build genuine resilience? The choice is yours, but the invitation is clear. Learning can be sustainable, joyful, and deeply effective when aligned with wisdom that's been tested across centuries. The Nordic approach to education isn't just about academic success. It's about becoming a lifelong learner who approaches challenges with curiosity rather than fear, wisdom rather than force, and joy rather than stress. That transformation is available to you starting today.